Hi, good evening, everyone. All right, please scan the QR code, all right, or visit this website for the materials. Please also do not delete any of the documents in the folder. I'll be starting class in about three-ish more minutes. Okay, it's already 6 o'clock. All right, can I just check if all of you have the materials for today? Can you just give me a thumbs up if you do? Okay, great. I see some familiar names as well. Okay, hi, welcome back. Okay, so I will be starting class in about one more minute, right? I think some of the other students are still trickling in. Okay, so just double check that you have the correct worksheet with you. We are doing the summary today. There is also a mini editing practice, right, embedded in the summary passage. Okay? Okay, right. Since it's already 6:01, I think I will just get started with the lesson. Just to double confirm, can I get you guys to just give me a quick thumbs up or any emoji of choice, really? So if you want to give me, I think there's like a cat emoji as well. Could you just give it to me? Okay, right. Great, great, great. Nice. Okay, all right. So with that, thanks for the emoji. Okay, so with that, I think we can just get started with the lesson. Okay, now if at any point, right, you find that my voice is starting to glitch out, right, or I sound a little weird, the screen's a bit wonky, etc., please let me know inside the Zoom chat. Okay, if you do have any questions at any point in time, feel free to ask away in the Zoom chat as well. Okay, if let's say you are feeling a bit shy, you don't want everyone to see your question or your query, don't worry, right? You can always direct message me inside the Zoom chat as well. Okay, so with that, let us begin. Right, welcome to the WA2 Online Revision, right, for English. Okay, just a bit of an introduction, right, to who I am. Okay, so my name is Miss Amira. So at Overmugged here, I teach English and JC General Paper. So as you can see on screen, I have been teaching for about 6 years. So I was a secondary JC English and General Paper tutor back at the Learning Lab, where I was there, right, for about 6 years. And now I am the subject head of English here at Overmugged. Okay. A fun fact about me is that I actually have two cats, right? Seaweed and Bean. I think some of you have seen them before. You remember, right? Yes. Okay. So I have two cats, Seaweed and Bean. Has Bean lost weight? Yes, actually, but not as fast as we would like him to. Okay, so hopefully he will be able to he will be able to be at a healthy weight, right, by the end of this year. Okay. This is of course a picture of me and how I look like, right, with proper makeup and everything on. Okay. I thought this would actually make for a funny picture, but alas, right? After looking back on it, right, I realized it's actually not that funny. Okay. To repeat, for those of you who are looking for the materials, you can actually scan the QR code on screen. You can also visit, right, this website for the materials as well. Okay? All right, I'll give you maybe about a couple more seconds, right, to quickly scan or go to the website for those of you who have just joined and don't have the worksheet. Okay, great. Right, thanks for letting me know. Okay. Now, what is Overmugged, right? So Overmugged is, as you can imagine, right, tuition center. Okay, so here are just some useful numbers for you. So we've been spreading our love to over 1,000 plus students, right? And we have been doing so every year. We have about 8 branches across Singapore. Okay, so we have even at Jurong East, right, Woodlands, Tampines, right, and of course the more central centers, right, at Toa Payoh and Bishan. Okay, I am based primarily at the Kovan Center, right? Kovan and Tampines, right? But mainly Kovan. Yes, I'm at Bukit Timah as well, right? But mainly Kovan lah. Okay. Now, here are just some more numbers, right, about us. Okay, so 70% of Overmark students actually achieved distinctions at the national exams. So this includes, right, the O levels as well as the A levels. Okay. If you do join us, right, of course, you will get access to the best learning resources in order for you to excel in your studies. So some examples would be curated notes, WA revisions, mock exams. For English, you will also get sets of curated notes and other extra resources, right, including oral consolidation documents and so on and so forth. Okay. If you are interested, of course, right, feel free to scan the QR code. I do think it will bring you to our website, right, where you can take a look at our regular group tuition classes schedules. Okay. All right, so you can take a look. We have, of course, for Sec 3 and Sec 4. For English, right, we teach Sec 3, Sec 4 together, right? So it's Upper Sec English. And here, of course, right, the schedules for me and our other tutors, Olivia and Zhi Hui. Okay, everybody can so far? Okay, great. Thank you for the thumbs up. Okay, again, any questions, let me know inside the Zoom chat. Yeah. Right. And with that, right, I think we can get started with the lesson. Okay, so let us begin. For those of you who do not have the worksheet, again, please scan the QR code, right, or visit this website. From this slide onwards, I will be putting this on screen. Okay, so if at any point, right, you realize that, hey, you accidentally lost the worksheet of some sort, you can just take a look at the screen and scan all over again, lah. Okay. Just a reminder, right, to please, right, do not delete anything inside the document. You can make copies of it. You can also download it straight to your device, but just don't delete anything there. Okay? Now, for today's lesson, we will be focusing on the summary. And for those of you who have skimmed through the worksheet, you'll find that there is also a bit of a mini editing practice. Okay? So these are the two main things that we will be going through today. Okay? Now, the first thing, of course, right, same with your short answer questions, okay? The first thing to do is to analyze today's question. Right, can I get you to take a look at today's question and quickly highlight the keywords in the question itself? Right, let me know once you are done. All right, so you can let me know by giving me a thumbs up or typing inside the Zoom chat. Okay, good. I see a couple of thumbs up. Okay, for those of you who are not yet done, I'll give you maybe about 20-ish more seconds to do so. Okay, good. I see more emojis, right? And more thumbs. Okay, good. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Okay, good. Can I get you guys to let me know what keywords you've highlighted in the first sentence? Right, using your own words as far as possible. Summarize the reasons why offline communication is still essential, as well as the problems caused by the use of online communication. Can I get you to let me know in the Zoom chat what you have highlighted here? Okay, good, good, good. Okay, good. All right, so I'm seeing a lot of responses. Right, good. Right, similar across the board. Very good. Okay. Now, there are basically two categories of things that we need to find today. The first would simply be the reasons why offline communication is still essential. And of course, category B, right, the problems caused by the use of online communication. Okay. Now, what I would encourage you to do, as you can see on screen, is to basically label, right, these categories. Typically, I use letters, right, A and B. Okay, this is also, or rather, this is so that it would be easier when you're doing your sourcing. Okay, and because you do need to organize your points at the end, right, when you're finalizing your summary. Okay, so good, right? So when you are labeling, it will look a little something like this, right? Let's say the first line, right, is my first point. So I number my points, right? 1, 2, 3. Okay, so my first point, right? Let's say I double check, right? Is it answering category A or is it better suited for category B? If it is category A, then it would be 1A, right? And then I move on to the second point. If it's still, right, part of category A, then I put 2A. And then, of course, the same thing goes on. Okay, so even for point number 3, right, if it's A or B, I just indicate so. Okay, this is so that it will be easier for us to organize our points later when we are finalizing our summary. Okay, now, where do we need to find these points from? Right, we need to get them from paragraphs 4 and 5 only. Can I give you about 10 seconds to mark out these paragraphs now? Okay, mark out. In other words, you highlight, right? You box up, right? You draw an arrow, indicating that this is the source paragraph. Okay. What I would encourage my students to do, or what I usually encourage my students to do, is to box up the entire thing, right? So something like this. Okay, so there's a psychological reason behind it, right? So nothing goes in, nothing goes out, right, of this box. Okay. Good, right? I see some of you are giving me emojis without me asking. Great. Okay, I'm assuming that most of you are done. Yes. Okay, very good. Okay, so this is really so that you are okay. So it really doesn't matter how you choose to mark out the paragraphs. If you want to highlight the number, you want to highlight the lines, it's up to you. Okay, what is more important is that you don't mark out the wrong paragraphs. Okay, so just be very careful when you're doing your question analysis, right, for your exam paper. Lah. Okay, today, good, right? Today it's paragraphs 4 and 5 only. Okay. But of course, to help us with our sourcing, now that we know what paragraphs we're supposed to source from, okay, what I would encourage you to do as well, especially if you find that sourcing is a bit of an issue for you, would be to unpack the juicier parts of the categories. Okay. So if you take a look, right, at category A, right, for instance, the reasons why, so on and so forth, we have a juicy word here, essential. Right, what are some synonyms for the word essential? Can you let me know in the Zoom chat? This is also a great way for us to warm up our vocabulary, right, before we start sourcing and paraphrasing later on. Okay, good. All right, I'll put these examples on screen. Okay, good. Oh, sorry, I realized my font size is really big. Good, right? So essential would be, right, vital, okay, important, crucial. Okay, good, right? Could be necessary as well. Okay, very good. Okay, so similar answers across the board. Okay, the idea, of course, if something is essential, it is really, really important. Okay, good, 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 good. Okay, now what about maybe if we take a look at category B, right? We have the word problems over here. Okay, what are some synonyms for the word problems? All right, seems like a pretty simple word, right? But what if you had to paraphrase it? Okay, good. Issues. Anything else? Good. Issues, challenges. Okay. Obstacles, troubles. Okay, good. Right. So the idea is that it is a problem, right? It is something that is not welcome. It is something that needs to be overcome, right? I saw some of you also gave me obstacles, hurdles. Okay, good. Right. The idea is that it is a challenge of some sort, right? It is not a good thing. Okay, good. Okay. Now, the final thing to look at, right, when it comes to our question, okay, would be the starting words. Right, so the starting words sometimes, right, nudge us into starting with a specific category of points. So if you take a look over here, offline communication is still essential because, and then we continue, right? Which category of points do we start with first? Do we start with A, the reasons, or B, right, the problems caused by the use of online communication? Good, right? So we should start with category A. Okay. Now, this is not always the case, right? Sometimes we do get starting words that are quite generic, and we can start with either category. But in this case, you notice, yeah, still essential because, right? Because indicates reasons, right? And so that's why we need to start with all of our category A points first, and then followed by all of our category B points. Okay. So that's why you realize that this labeling thing that I shared with you earlier is so important because we need to know which are all the A points, which are all the B points, so that we can sort them out accordingly. Okay? Everybody clear so far? Can you give me a quick thumbs up if everything is more or less clear for you? Great. Okay. Please always analyze your question before you start sourcing, before you start attempting the section. Okay. Do note that, of course, right, when you are doing the full paper, right, this is part of your expository comprehension. Okay. So what I would encourage you to do when you are given, right, the full paper, first analyze your short answer questions. Okay. So in other words, all those, their normal comprehension, that part. Right. So analyze all your comprehension questions first, read the summary question. So at least you have a sense of what the passage is about. Because usually the summary gives you a clue as to what your expository compre passage is on. Okay, just read it. You don't have to analyze it just yet. Analyze it when you're about to start on the summary. Yeah. Usually, what happens when students analyze all of the questions at one shot, right, at one go first, when they get to the summary component, right, they need to sort of like reanalyze it because they may have forgotten what the question was when they were doing the first part of this section, when they were doing the compre questions. Okay, so just be careful about that. Okay, so TLDR, when you get your paper two, when you're about to start on the expository compre, analyze, right, your short answer questions first, right? So analyze your compre questions and read the summary question to get a sense of what it's about. And then you do, right? The first part, your compre. And then when you're about to start on the summary, then you analyze it briefly again. Okay? Ken? Okay, good. So now, right, what I will, or rather, what I would like you to do is to now read and source, right? Now, remember that there is also an editing practice embedded inside the passage itself. I believe it is paragraph 2, okay? Do note that for the editing practice, all of the lines have an error, right? So all of them have a problematic word, okay? So yes, it's only 5 marks, okay? But all 5 lines, right? Each of them has an error, okay? So quite a number of things that I want you to do, and I'm going to give you some time to complete this. Okay, so read the passage, complete the mini editing practice, right, in paragraph 2, and please source for the summary points. Okay, I know there's a lot to do here, so I'm going to help you out. Okay, for our summary today, there are only 8 points to be found. Okay, let me put it on screen, right? There are only 8 points to be found for our summary this time round, right? So please source carefully. Okay, everyone clear so far with regards to the instructions? Can you just give me a quick emoji of choice and then I'll set the timer, I'll put it on screen. I will give you 15 minutes, right? I am not cruel, right? 15 minutes. 30 minutes, I think is too long, right? But 15 minutes, I think should be fine. Okay, so let me put the timer on screen. Okay, I will use the ducks, all right? The duck race. Okay, let me just put it here. I will put maybe about 100 ducks, okay? What is the duck race you shall see? Okay, so it's basically this over here. Okay, you have 15 minutes, right? Feel free to watch the ducks race, right? If you're done a little earlier, okay? Your time starts now. I will mute, right? I will mute this website. I think it might be a bit distracting otherwise. Okay, for those of you who don't have the worksheet again, right, just scan the QR code, okay, or go to this website for the materials. Okay, please, again, do not delete any of the documents in the folder. Right, any questions? Let me know inside the Zoom chat as well, then I can just respond accordingly. Yeah, I will be going through the editing practice with you, right? When we take a look at the passage, right? We will also check our sourcing right after this. Okay, you have about 10 more minutes. Okay, you have about 4 more minutes. For those of you who are already done, all right, feel free to try paraphrasing some of the points on your own if you want to. Okay. Feel free to also let me know which duck, all right, you think is going to win. Right, the ducks, 1 to 100. Okay, if you're not yet done, don't worry. You still have about 3.5 more minutes. Okay, about 2 more minutes. Okay, I see some of you have informed me that you think duck number 39 is going to win. Or 39 would be this guy. Okay, for those of you who have other questions, or feel free to let me know inside the Zoom chat as well. Okay, right. So some of you are saying, so initially it was duck number 39 that was a popular choice. Changing your mind? Okay. I see other numbers, right? So some of you think duck number 11 is going to win. Duck number duck number 100. We will see. Okay, although I can't seem to find 100 here at all, so we will see. The duck's actually quack, yes. Okay, but I've muted it so that at least it will be easier for you, right, to focus on your work. Okay, you have about 40-ish more seconds. For those of you who are done, right, can you just give me a quick emoji of choice? There are only 8 points to be found. Okay, so I hope you found all 8. You found 10 points. Okay, so perhaps some of those points were repeated, right? So we will see. Okay, remember that when it comes to your summary, right, the points should be distinct from each other, right? So no repeated ideas. You won't get marked down per se, but you will be using up a lot of words, right? If you end up repeating the same idea. Okay? You think duck number 83 is going to win. You say that just as congratulations, okay? But good, 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 good. I'm assuming that all of you are more or less done, right? Based on the emojis, right, from earlier. Very good. You thought duck number 38 was going to win. So close, right? It was just the other way around, okay? But don't worry, right? We will see the ducks again, right, later on. Okay, for now, I am assuming that everyone is more or less done, right, with your reading, your editing practice, and of course, the sourcing. For those of you who find that you have found more than 8 points, right, to repeat, there is a high chance that a couple of those points actually have the same idea. In other words, they're talking about the same thing. Okay, so we will see later when we are checking our sourcing. Okay, now we'll start by, right, looking at paragraph 1 first. Okay, so I think you can ignore this question first, right? So we'll look at paragraph 1 itself rather than paragraph 2. Now, paragraph 1, okay, there's actually one word, right, that I wanted to ask you guys about. It is the word alienated, right? Now, alienated is actually a term that we see quite a fair bit, right? Typically, right, whenever we talk about social media, right? Okay, good. What does it mean? Right, what does alienated mean? To be an alien? Okay, right. I'll give you guys maybe about 10 more seconds. I see a lot of you letting me know or what it is in the Zoom chat. Okay, very good. Okay, all right. So I'm getting unknown, alien, okay, inanimate. Okay, now if you take a look at the word alienated, and this is actually a tip that I have for you. If you come across a word that you're not quite sure, right, what the meaning is, okay, sometimes, right, you can find root words embedded in the word itself. So if you take a look at alienated, right, for example, right, and I think some of you noticed this, we see the word alien, right? Okay, what does an alien mean? What does it mean to be an alien? I think we know what aliens are, but what does it mean to be an alien? Right? Because over here you notice, right? Alienated. Okay, to be treated like an alien. Okay. So what does it mean to be an alien? Okay, to be an alien is to stand out. You cannot fit in. So what does it mean when people treat you like it's something that, stands out too much, can't fit in? How do you think people would regard you? Ah, good. They would avoid you, or treat you like an outcast, maybe. Okay. They may embrace you for sure. But the idea basically, when we talk about alienating, okay, it has to do precisely with treating a person as if they are too different that they can't fit in. Okay. And I think one of you mentioned the right word or the word that I was thinking of, isolated. Okay, so basically, right, to be alienated or to alienate another person, right? Because alienate is actually a verb. To alienate another person is to make someone feel like they are an alien, like they cannot fit in, right? That they are, like not part of the group, that they're detached, they're outcast, right? Very good. Okay. So if you feel alienated, right? In other words, you feel, right, like you are being treated like an alien. You feel, right, a bit isolated, like you cannot fit in. Everybody follow me so far? Can you just give me a quick thumbs up if that much is clear? So you notice, right? If we come across a word that we're not sure, one thing that we can try to do, right, with the word itself is to see if there are any other root words embedded in that word. Okay, like in this case, we may not know what alienated means, but we know what aliens are, or we know what they connote, right? Then from there, we use it as a starting point, right, to figure out the meaning. And if you take a look, right, at the rest of the paragraph, you notice it is pretty much in line with that understanding, right? To be treated like an outcast. Okay, good. It is something negative. Because over here, they also mentioned, right, how without such small, intimate communities, we would feel lonely, right? Good. We feel alone, right? And we feel isolated, right? Do you see how they fit the same category? Okay, very good. Okay, so just a tip that I have for you, right? Pretty useful, not just for your expository comprehension, but of course, right, for your narrative compre, maybe your visual text and paper one as well. Okay? Now, what I think is more important for us would be the mini editing practice. Okay? So if you take a look, right, at the first line, okay, what is the problematic word? Can you let me know what the problematic word is in the Zoom chat? Right, unfortunately, people now live ever more lonely lives in an ever more connected planets. Right, digital interactions have replaced the warmth of. Very good. Okay, and what should the correct word be? Right, the problematic word is indeed planets. Very good. All right, so planets is the problematic word. It should be planet instead. Why? Because if you take a look over here, they say an ever more connected something, right? Whenever we see a or an, it would imply that the noun needs to be singular. Okay? Good, 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 good. Okay, right. Now, what about the second line? What is the problematic word? Right, digital interactions have replaced the warmth of face-to-face conversations, social media, while seeming bringing us. Okay, good. Right. The problematic word is seeming. What should it be instead? Okay, very good. I see a couple of you have shared the answer. Good. It should be seemingly. Okay? Now, what does it mean, seemingly? What is the difference between seemingly and seeming? Okay, you'll find that this is actually an adverb. Okay, so words ending with ly, happily, quickly, extremely, these are all adverbs. We use adverbs whenever we want to describe a verb, okay, or another adjective. Okay, so in this case, you notice the verb would be bringing. Okay, and so because I'm trying to describe this verb, okay, I need to turn this into something that ends with ly, right? An adverb. Everybody can so far? Can you just give me a quick thumbs up if that much is clear? Okay, great. Now, what does seemingly mean at all? What does it mean? Seeming, seemingly. Social media seemingly brings us together. As if, okay, good. Sort of, okay. It appears so. Very good. Okay, so in other words, seeming or seemingly basically means that it seems to be the case. It appears to be the case. It appears to be true. It appears, right, to be real. Okay, but it may not necessarily be so. Okay, can so far? Yeah, it is different from it definitely is. Right, seems, oh yeah, it looks as if that is the case, right? It seems as though, it appears as though it is like that, but, right, it doesn't necessarily mean that it is so. Okay? Can so far? Okay, good, 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 good. Okay, all right. Now, what about the third line? What is the problematic word here? On companionship? Which one is it? Ah, okay. So the problematic word here is actually on. It should be off. Okay. Now the clue for us is actually the word instead, right? So this is just a matter of your preposition. Okay. Can so far? Yeah, we usually say instead of, right? We don't really pair it with any other preposition, right? Instead of, right, saying yes, right, you should have rejected, right, the appeal, right? Instead of, right, running around, you should have sat there. Okay, so instead of. Okay, good. Now the next line, right, what is the problematic word? Even in crowded spaces like trains or bustling cafes, we remained. Okay, good, 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 good. I see a lot of you sharing the right word. Remained. Right, what should it be instead? Good. Why should it be remain? Why remain instead of remained? Okay, past tense, right, versus present tense. Okay, good. Still in the action. Good. Still in the present. Okay, good. Okay, so in other words, right, you notice this is still ongoing. It is still the case, right? Okay, so we use present tense, right, for present day facts. Okay, present day descriptions. Okay, and you notice another clue for us, in fact, is the word fosters. All right, bringing us to this. It fosters, right, shallow interactions. Okay, today we still remain something something. Okay, so in other words, it's good, right? It should not be in the past tense, it should be present tense, really because of your present day facts. No? Great. Okay. Now the final one, problematic word. Okay, good. What should it be? In. Very good. Okay, so this is just a matter of your prepositions. But the clue for us is the word trapped, right? And of course, our own worlds as well. Okay, so that gives us a hint, right, as to what kind of preposition it should be. Okay, good. Okay, how many of you were able to get, right, 4 to 5 out of 5? Good job. Okay. So this is, of course, right? I'm just a mini editing practice for you. Okay. The good, right? So the main one will be worth 10 marks instead of 5. Okay. But here are just commonly tested grammar rules, right? For you to just be mindful of, yeah, in future. Yeah. Now, what is more important, of course, would be, hold on now. What did I do? Yes. Okay, if you take a look at this second paragraph, okay, what is the main idea of this paragraph? Right, I think a couple of you were asking me, right, how do you improve your section C or your comprehension, right? I think a couple of you were asking earlier during the duck race, okay? One tip that I have for you is to basically jot down the main idea of each paragraph at the side, right? Especially for your expository comprehension. Okay. For your narrative compre, maybe a couple of paragraphs, you jot down what the main action is. Okay. So that way, right, you will be able to better comprehend, right, what the entire passage is on. Okay, so good. So for example, the first paragraph, introduction, second paragraph is this, third paragraph is that. Okay, so it will help you sort of like organize your thoughts, right, a bit better. Okay. Yeah, so when you are reading the passage before you start doing the questions, lah. Okay. Now, with what about with regards to paragraph two that you see on screen? What is the main idea of this paragraph? Right, unfortunately, people now live ever more lonely lives in an ever more connected planet, digital interactions, right, so on and so forth. What is the main idea here? Okay, good. Right. Even though social media seems to bring us together, people are more isolated. It is basically an extension, right, of the previous paragraph that we are lonely, right, and alienated without such intimate communities. And social media, right, seems to be making us even more, right, lonely and even more alienated from one another. Okay, it is basically giving us a bit of contextual information, right, you could say, about the role of social media. Even though, and this is the irony, right? Even though we are more connected today, right? There are greater connections, we're interacting with more and more people online. The reality is that we are actually a lot more isolated from one another. Okay? Irony, right? If you can still recall, is expectation versus reality. So with social media, you would expect us to be closer, right? You would expect us to be, to feel a lot more united, right? To feel less isolated. But in reality, it is quite the opposite. Okay, and this is what our author is suggesting. Yeah, he gave some examples as well, right? So even in crowded places, we are still isolated from other people because we are trapped in our own world, or we're stuck here on our phone. Good, right? We're stuck on our phones, we're interacting with our friends, we're WhatsApping, right? We're Instagramming. We're not really looking at the people around us, right? In this offline world. Okay, good. Okay, now we'll take a look at paragraph three. Okay, so we'll move on to paragraph three. Now, paragraph three, there is not much that I want to run through here. Okay, but rather I thought it would be a great opportunity, right, for us to warm up our vocabulary for our paraphrasing later. Okay, so if you take a look, there are three words here that I've taken from paragraph three itself. Okay, how would you paraphrase each one? The first one, authenticity. How would you paraphrase it? Or what words come to mind? Okay, authentic, right? But notice, what does it mean, right? Authentic. Okay, you notice that you can't use the word authentic because that is the root word here. It would be lifting otherwise. Okay? I'll give you a couple of clues. Right? The first one is sincerity. What about this word? Real. Okay, a lot of you are saying real. Okay, good. Okay, so I mean, not wrong. Reality, you notice, right, has a different meaning altogether. Okay, over here, all right, not wrong. It is the idea of something being real. In other words, something being genuine. Very good. Okay, can I get you guys to jot this down? Maybe in the margins at the side of your worksheet. Okay, and notice instead of saying genuine only, right, I combine it with the word connection. Because if I were to sort of cross-reference, right, to what's happening inside the paragraph itself, the focus is indeed on a kind of genuine connection, right, that overseas exchange students get to experience. Okay? Right, let me see. Other words. Yeah, most of you wrote genuine, right? Yes. Okay, good. Right, genuine. Sincerity. Okay, because to be authentic, right, is to basically be real, as you guys are saying. Okay, to not be fake, right, to be real. Okay, to be genuine, right. That's really the best word here. Okay. Now, what about the next one? Abroad, right? I think a couple of you have mentioned the word already. Overseas, very good. A lot of you just immediately, I thought about this, right? Overseas, good. Okay. Okay. Now, what about the final one? Trust. Okay. Some of you say trust is to believe, trust is to listen. I would say that to believe a person, to listen to a person, these are all symptoms of trust. What does it mean to trust someone? Okay, good. Right. A lot of you say faith. You would also, I think, you could also think of it as assurance, right? If you trust a person, right, you are sort of like rest assured that this person is someone good, right? You are sort of like assured of this person's character and so on and so forth. What is another word that we can use to paraphrase trust? To have trust in a person, to have faith in a person, to be assured of a person, to have what? Feel free to throw letters. Don't worry, it's not hangman per se. N, confidence. Very good. Okay, a lot of you figured out after the letter N. Good. Okay, confidence. Yes, the letter O is here as well, my dear. Okay, very good. Okay, so trust, right? To trust a person is to basically have confidence in them, right? Either confidence in them, maybe confidence in their ability, but the idea is that you feel assured. Okay? Can so far? Very good. Okay. Anybody's any questions with regards to this? If you have no questions, can I get you to give me a quick emoji of choice? Okay, but good. All of you are on fire in a good way, all right? Good, good, good. Okay, so now let me clear the screen. Okay, now what this also means is that if, let's say, right, in future summaries, right, not this one, maybe the next one, right, your exams, if you see the word trust, you see the word authenticity, you see the word abroad, you can basically paraphrase, right, those words with one of these. Okay? Yes, right. So this is my attempt to help you build your vocabulary, right, a little bit. Yeah. Now, we'll move on to paragraph 4, which is basically, right, your summary sourcing paragraph. Okay. Now, please check your sourcing. The first point, right, and it falls under the first category, right, will be a community may begin as an online gathering, but in order to truly flourish, it will have to strike roots in the physical world too. Okay, so I think one of you was asking, right, can you get a bit of a hint? And I said a word that brings to mind nature, right? The environment, gardens, plants, roots. Okay? Second point, and notice, second point here actually falls under the second category, not the first one. Okay? Because over here, it's not really, right? Why it's essential, but more so problems associated, right, with online communication. Okay? And the third point, right? And pretty much the last point in your paragraph 4 is this one. Where physical communities have a depth that virtual communities cannot match. Okay? Were you able to get all 3 points from paragraph 4? How are roots related to plants? Roots are the base of plants, right? Plants need roots in order for them to get water to survive. All right, yes, okay. Good, 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 good. Okay. Now I'll move on to paragraph 5 now because I do want us to try paraphrasing, right, some of these points. Okay, paragraph 5, right, do check your sourcing. Right, fourth point, right, falls under category B. We have been losing our ability to pay attention to what we smell, what we taste. Right, 5, another B point, right, we are more interested in what is happening in cyberspace than what is happening in our immediate surroundings. Right? 6B, right? Furthermore, many people seem to form views solely based on how others respond. And 7B again, right? 8, be again in fact. 7, they barely form their own opinions of the event. And 8, people prefer, sorry, short, superficial exchanges over deep, thoughtful ones. Okay? Were all of you able to get all 8 points? Okay. Okay, so why is this not a point? The online reactions one? Okay, you realize that this is actually, if I were to highlight it, yes, it would be highlighting a problem, right, with online communication, but it is pretty much the same as the idea before, right? So it is actually a repeated point, right? Because if you are, basing, right, your thinking on online reactions, it would mean that you don't have your own opinion, right? So it would be a repetition of this point, if not the one before, actually. Right? So how other people respond, so how other people react, right? That is how they form their views. Okay? Okay, so I will show you, right, these points. For those of you who missed, okay, the previous paragraph, let me clear the screen. Right, let me go back to the previous slide. Okay, so paragraph 4, right, these points over here. So do check your sourcing. Right, for those of you who missed out on paragraph 4, there are only 3 points here. Okay? Okay, once you're done checking all 8 points, can I get you to give me a quick thumbs up? Okay, so this lie sick at home in Singapore, where my online friends from the US can talk to me, you notice that the idea is actually quite similar, right, to the one before. This is actually a way to elaborate on the depth that virtual communities cannot match. Okay? Okay, right, good, 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 good. Okay, good. 3 subpoints, right? You mean in 2B or 2A? Which one, dear? Do you mean this point? Or the first one? Okay, if you are referring to 1A, right? I'm assuming it's 1A rather than 2B. Okay, so 1A, this is actually a single point, right? Because the idea is about the process, right? So the focus is on how, right? Remember that our focus, again, it always goes back to the question, right? Okay, so if you take a look at 1A, the focus, it would seem, is on why offline communities are essential. Okay, it is essential because if you do have an online community, that's great, but for it to flourish, okay, to flourish is basically to put it in simple terms, right? It is to do well, right? To succeed, right? It will need to basically have roots in the physical world as well. Right. So in other words, that's why offline communication is so important. If you rely only on online communication, then your community will just stay there. It will not, it might become stagnant. Very good. It might be stagnant. It will not flourish. Okay. Yes, right. So there are only 2 points, right, for the first category. Okay, so I've color coded it, right, similar to the colors that I used earlier as well. Okay. Okay, does that answer your question or your questions? All right, Jessica, dear, does that answer your question? Yes? Okay, okay. All right. Now, I think we are more or less done checking our sourcing. Okay. You fell for the repeated points. I see. Okay, so next time just be careful. Okay, typically, right? If you find that, oh, how do I phrase this, right? If you find, right, that you have maybe 10, 11, 12 points in your paper two, right? Usually that is normal. Okay, usually what teachers do is that we include more than 8 points, right? For your sourcing. Okay. Of course, for this particular exercise, there are only 8 points because the focus is also on the precision of your sourcing. you realize that for paragraph 4, there were only 3 points and there was a lot of text, right? But all those sentences, if you were to highlight them, you're not wrong. It would fall under category A, but it would be a repetition of an earlier point. Okay, so you can double check your sourcing. Okay, so usually in your exam papers, right, in your main papers, usually we would give more than 8 points. Okay, usually, right? But it just so happens that for this practice, right, there are only 8 points, right, to test you or to get you to practice precision of your sourcing. Okay. Okay, great, 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 great. Okay. Now, I think in the interest of time, since it's already 7, okay, let's go move on to the paraphrasing part, right, of the summary. Okay. Now, a lot of students, what they do is that they immediately start paraphrasing, and then their first draft is it, right? The first way they paraphrase is the paraphrasing that they go with for their final summary. Okay. Now, a couple of tips for you. My first tip is, right, before you start paraphrasing, in fact, when you are starting to paraphrase a point, before you start paraphrasing at all, make sure you remove any excess detail first. Okay, so any excess information, just remove it from the point. This is because oftentimes, right, not all words are needed for you to capture the original idea. For example, right, if you take a look right over here, let's say the focus of our summary is how the children felt, right? And then you have this point over here, right? The children with all their bags and toys were tired, right? You realize that if I were to remove, very good, if I were to remove this part, right? These excess details, the main idea is still the same, right? The main idea that answers the question rather is still the same, right? That the children were feeling tired. Do you follow me so far? Okay, good. So if I remove all of these words, right, that means I don't need to paraphrase them. Okay? Usually when it comes to the summary, right, that is the case. Okay, remove any excess detail, really because not all words are needed to capture the original idea. Sometimes if you remove, right, a word or two, okay, or a few words, the meaning will still stay the same, right? And then so you paraphrase the remaining. So you paraphrase, for example, children, tired, for instance. Okay? Everybody follow me so far? Can you give me another emoji? Okay, great. All right. The next tip that I have for you, basically what I did over here. So you see the remaining points, right? Or the remaining words, right? The children were tired. I break it up even further into bite-sized pieces, and then I paraphrase each box. Okay, you notice it becomes a lot more manageable that way. Rather than paraphrasing, right, 10 words at one go, when I break it up this way, I paraphrase each one, it just feels a bit easier, right? It is not as overwhelming, right, to put it quite simply. Okay? Ken? Great. Okay. Now, let me clear the screen. Now, let's say we are done with boxing up into smaller pieces. What do we do next? How do we paraphrase the words in the boxes? Okay, so if you recall from earlier, right, we were using our synonyms, right? Synonyms are basically part of the first category, right? Or the first paraphrasing strategy, right? As I like to call them. Okay. Now, the first paraphrasing strategy is to use synonyms, definitions, maybe antonyms, okay, but in this order of preference. Okay, this is because antonyms are usually not so precise. So when you say, for example, if you had to paraphrase, someone is sad, and then you paraphrase it using an antonym. The antonym of sad is happy, right? And then you say, oh, the person was not happy. You realize that not happy does not necessarily imply sorrow. Not happy could be anger, annoyance, right? So it's actually quite broad. Okay, so that's why antonyms, being the least precise method paraphrasing, we leave them for last. Okay, we try to go with a synonym, we go with the definition first. Okay, now definition is really if you cannot think of a synonym. At the same time, there are some words that simply do not have synonyms, right? For example, right, a popular word that doesn't have a synonym would be the word empathy, right? What does empathy mean? Is it the same as sympathy? Actually, empathy is not the same as sympathy, right? To empathize with another person or to demonstrate or show empathy, okay, actually has to do with good, very good, thank you. It has to do with sharing the feelings of another person, right? Putting yourself, right, in the shoe. That is what empathy is. It is different from sympathy. For sympathy, I suppose you can see it as, oh, I feel bad, right? I feel bad that this happened, right? I feel so sorry that this happened. Where empathy would be, oh man, I feel sorry that this happened. I can understand what you are going through. Do you follow me so far? Everybody can, right? With the first one and your empathy versus sympathy. Good, good, good. Okay, now second strategy would be categorization. So this is if, let's say, there are multiple examples, I think of a category to group them under. Good, right? So the same as grouping, basically, right? You're thinking of a category, you're thinking of a group to put them under. Okay, great. Oh, for example, if let's say I say that I like apples, bananas, and watermelons, what category can I put those under? Apples, watermelons, bananas, fruits, right? So what you just did was categorize all those things. Yeah, that's precisely it. Okay? Now, finally, it would be inferring the big idea. Now, this is especially the case, right, when it comes to your figurative language. Sometimes we come across idiomatic expressions, we come across figurative phrases, right? Okay, so if we come across phrases or points like that, you cannot paraphrase it word for word. If I say, for instance, right, that the students were zombies during morning assembly, I can't paraphrase it as the students were members of the Walking Dead, where the students were dead yet alive. You know, it doesn't make sense. So you will need to think of maybe the connotations associated with zombies, right? And what you're doing when you're identifying connotations is that you are inferring the big idea. Okay? Everybody follow me so far with regards to these three strategies? Right, can you just give me a quick emoji of choice if everything is clear? Similar to what your school's teaching, that's great. Okay. There are only so many ways, right? You can paraphrase points lah. Okay. Great. Good, 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 good. Okay. Now let's try paraphrasing three of these points. Okay. And then I'll give you some time to try the rest on your own, and then we'll quickly consolidate. Okay. Now the first point, right? Oh, sorry, just a reminder. A single point may require more than one strategy. So it doesn't mean that this point only uses synonyms, right? Or I have another point and I only categorize. No. Remember that we're breaking it up into smaller pieces. So you take a look at each individual bite-sized piece and figure out which one best suits that piece. Okay? Now, for instance, if we take a look over here, what words do I not need? Right? What words can I remove? Okay, good. What is the main idea, right? And this is something that one of you asked me earlier, right? The main idea, right, is really that, sure, you can have an online community, but for it to truly flourish, for it to do well, right, it will need to have roots, right, in the physical world, in the offline space, right? That's why offline communication is still essential. If you have, right, the online community on its own, it might just be stagnant. It will just be there. Okay, so you need the offline community, right? For you need offline communication, right? For that online or just that community alone to flourish. Okay? Okay, now what words do I not need? In other words, if I remove the words, it doesn't really make a difference. Okay, in order, okay, good, right? So in order to, I suppose, okay, good, right? So I'm getting a lot of interesting responses. Okay. All right. So I will say that you don't need, right, these phrases. Okay. Right. We'll have to try. Okay. So I can basically remove this and you notice the main idea is still the same. Right. The main idea remains. Okay. What do I do next? Details. Okay. I'm breaking up this. Okay. Can the rest of you hear me? Right. Let me unmute and then unmute. Am I breaking up for the rest of you as well? Right, Angel, is it better now? Okay, right? Now, what do I do after I have removed all these access details? Good, right? You break up the remaining words, okay, into bite-sized pieces. So you notice I can basically have community as a term on its own, truly, flourish, have to, strike roots, and then physical world. Okay, so you notice what's happening is I'm breaking it up into bite-sized pieces. And then what do I do next? This is when I start paraphrasing. Okay, now for community, right? How can I paraphrase the word community? Group, okay, Ken? All right. Okay, let me use the color blue, right, so that you can see. Okay, now what about truly? How can I paraphrase truly? Okay, so we're just paraphrasing each word or phrase first, right? We'll put everything together at the end. Okay? How do you paraphrase the word truly? It truly is, right? Not my fault. Right? How do I paraphrase the word truly? Really good. Okay? Now what about flourish? Okay, I use the phrase do well, although I think it's a bit reductive. Okay. Any other words for flourish? Blue, succeed, thrive. Okay, good. Okay, I think we have quite a number of words here, so I'll just leave this here. What about have to? If you have to do it, you have to say no. You have to study. Very good. Must. Okay. Now, strike roots. Okay. I think strike roots. See? This is actually a term on its own. Now, I feel like you guys may not quite know this term. Is anybody interested in gardening by any chance? Okay, I realize that this might be a term, right, that we're not familiar with. Now, if you take a look at strike roots, this is actually what it means. It basically means that you cut a plant, right? And then you let the plant develop its own roots like this, right? And then you put it in the soil. And so it will form a new independent plant. Right, so basically I have a main plant here, okay? And what I do is I cut a bit of the plant, I let it grow roots, I put it in water, let it grow its own roots, and then I put it right in the soil so it becomes a new plant on its own. Everybody follow me so far? Okay? So that's basically what strike roots mean. Okay, but you realize if I were to paraphrase word for word or use the definition, does it make sense? Right. Oh, a group, right, must cut off the roots and then put it in and put it in the soil so that it can grow to an independent plant. Does that make sense? So what do I need to do? Infer. Okay, good. So what kind of inference can I make here? What does it mean? All right. If I have to cut off a bit, put it here, and then it can grow. What is it trying to say? Do I cut the, okay, so I take the plant, I cut the root of the original plant. So I cut a bit of the original plant, right? I let it grow its own roots and then I put it in the soil where it will grow. Good, where it will flourish. Okay? Okay, maybe you guys can ruminate on that first, right? We'll take a look at physical world. Okay? How do I paraphrase physical world? Or maybe the word physical? What world, if you're talking about the physical world? Real world. Okay, can. Right? Real life. Okay, can. Now we'll go back to this. What are some connotations of this? Okay, remember, we're talking about a plant. I cut a bit of the plant, I put it in the soil, and then I let it flourish, right? How is it related to online communities and offline communities? Good. The original plant, right, is basically the offline community, right? Okay, so if you have an online community, right, you cut off a stem from this offline community, you put it in the soil, and then that community would flourish. Very good. Okay, so you notice the idea is basically, okay, let me see. All right. It needs to be, okay, if I were to just put here, I know it's going to sound weird, right? Main plant, right, is basically the offline community. Okay. So for an online community, right, to flourish, to truly, really flourish, it needs to have the roots there. Do you see that? Okay, all right. Now let's put everything together. Okay, so my final answer will look a little something like this. Okay, a group. Okay, and notice that I can't just a group really do well, right? Must. Okay, it sounds a bit weird, so I need to put everything together. Okay, a group. Okay, good. Must have offline communication to really thrive, right? Or succeed. Right, I think it's fine. Right, so a group must, actually, hold on up. Maybe not have, right? Because we want to capture the main plant and the plant cutting, right? Okay, so a group must what? Offline communication. Let's see if we can guess this. Must, actually. So I'm trying to incorporate all the words that we've come up with. Must be what on? It must be cut off for it to thrive. Sounds a bit oxymoronic, right? Based on. Good. Okay, because you notice this plant that I'm cutting off, it is based on the main plant. Right, so this is the main plant, right? This is the real world. Okay. So I cut a bit here. Okay. I let it grow its own roots and then it will flourish on its own. Okay. But in order for it to flourish, it needs to be based on this plant first. I need to remove it and let it grow its own roots. Do you follow me so far? Okay, if you're wondering, oh my goodness, right? What exactly is striking roots? It is a gardening thing. Okay, so for those of you who are interested in gardening or if you're part of the environmental club, you might have come across this term before. Another term for this is striking. But the idea is, I think as some of you are pointing out now, you it's it's called plant cutting. You cut off a bit, you let it grow a bit, and then you let it grow by itself. Pretty much, pretty much. Okay, everybody follow me so far? Notice it is not so straightforward, right? So what we were just doing, right, was basically thinking of connotations, of ideas, thinking about the actual definition and how we might apply to this context. Okay, you realize that that is basically our third paraphrasing strategy, inferring the big idea. Okay, can so far? Can you give me a quick thumbs up or any emoji of choice, really, if everyone is clear? Okay, great, 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 great. Okay. If you have any other questions, just let me know inside the Zoom chat, right? And then I will do my best to respond. Yeah? Right, we'll move on now to the next question, the next point, sorry. Now, the next point, we're focusing on a category B point. We have been losing our ability to pay attention to what we smell and taste, okay? Now, you notice over here, is there any word that I need to remove? Any excess detail? Actually, no. Yes, right. I would say that there's actually no word that we need to cut off, right? Because we need all of the ideas here. Okay. And so I box up the remaining words, right? So I have losing, ability, pay attention, right? To what we smell and taste. Okay. Now, what is a synonym? How can we paraphrase the word losing? If something is lost, gone. Okay. Any other words? Missing. Okay. Reducing. Decreasing. Okay, good. There's quite a lot of words here. The idea is that there is a loss somehow, right? We originally had it and then now it's gone, it's reduced, it's decreased, right? It's missing. Okay, good. Now, what about ability? Capacity, okay? right? It could be function as well. Capability, potential. Okay, very good. Okay, now what about pay attention? To pay attention to something is to what? Now, pay attention to what the teacher is saying. Pay attention, right, to the video. Good, right? Concentrate, focus. Okay, good. Now, what about what we smell and taste? You realize in this case, I can use categorization, right? So what category can I put smell and taste under? They are our what? Senses. Very good. Okay, they are our senses. Okay? And so you notice we have quite a number of words here. So let's try paraphrasing it based on the words that we have. Okay, so what is one problem? One problem would be, right, the reduction, right, the decrease of our capacity. Hold on, Oops. Maybe I'll start with offline communication. Uh, Offline communication, I can't use the word gone, right? So reduces, decreases, right? People's capacity, right? Capability. Can you notice that function and potential, even though they are relevant synonyms, not so useful in this context? Okay? The ability to concentrate, right, or focus on our senses. Right? But you realize that it sounds a little awkward, right? And we're using quite a number of words here. Okay? Oh, good. Thank you. Right? People's capacity, right, to concentrate or focus, right, on their senses. Because focusing on your senses sounds a bit odd, isn't it? Okay, so in other words, what is a better word here? Right? And in fact, this ability, right, to focus on your senses, it is reducing people's what? Sensitivity. Mm, okay, can. Right, so you notice the one earlier, if you were to paraphrase, right? The one earlier, what happened? I'll just put the word sensitivity here. Okay, so the one that we saw earlier, right? If you were to write that down, you would get the mark for content, but it just sounds a little awkward. Lah. Okay, but that's one of the good things also about the summary, right? We do accept different kinds of paraphrasing. So if, for example, you use reduces, right, or use decreases, or you phrase it in a different way, but the original idea is there, you will still get the content mark. Okay? Language mark is separate. Language mark will have to do with the quality of your paraphrasing. Okay? But if you get that summary point already, okay, you would already get the content mark. Okay? Everybody can so far? Can okay, good, 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 good. Okay. All right, so let me clear the screen. Now, we'll take a look at one more point. Okay, and then I'll let you try paraphrasing some of the points on your own. Okay, now over here. All right, so okay, right. So let me just answer it verbally. Okay, so how do you know how many points to find from a passage, or is it generally 8 to 10 points? I would say that, of course, there is no confirmation, right, as to the specific number of points in a passage. So yeah, we can assume maybe about 8 to 10, right? Usually minimum 8 for sure. Okay, so that's why I say, I said earlier on, right? Usually what happens is you will get more than 8 points, right? Usually you get maybe like 10 points, right? To choose from. Lah. Okay, so I would say it's safe to assume 8 to 10, right? Then out of the 10 points, you decide on the 8 to 9 that you want to include in your final summary. Does that answer your question, dear? Right, so there is no guarantee as to how many there are specifically, but we can just make a safe assumption, lah, right? 8 to 10. Okay, no problem. Yeah. Now over here, all right, again, you notice in this case, looks pretty short. Are there any words here that I can remove? Words that I don't need. Right? I don't need the event. Right? Because the main idea here is that they barely form their own opinions. Okay? Now, the remaining words, again, like what I did earlier, I break it up into smaller pieces. Barely form own opinions, right? Now, how do you paraphrase barely? What are some synonyms for the word barely? Scarcely, okay. Ken, anything else? Hardly, rarely, okay, Ken. Right, scarcely, hardly, rarely. What about form? Create? Anything else? A lot of you are saying create. Can you say have? I think in this case, sure. Right, so they barely have. Okay, Ken. Generate. Okay, also Ken. Now, what about own opinions? How can I paraphrase opinions? I can't use the word views because views was mentioned, right, inside the paragraph. Ideas. Okay. So I see a lot of you are giving me words for opinions. Okay, ideas, perspectives. What about own? If you have your own opinion about something, right? Okay, self. Okay, hold on. Now I'll put own here, right? Self, personal, individual. Okay, unique. Okay, Ken. Right. Then, of course, opinions, right? We have, very good. Ideas, perspectives. Okay, good. I'm getting one more. Beliefs. Okay, Ken. Right. And so, how do I put everything together? Okay, so they say they. Who is they referring to? Yep, just people. Okay. Right. So, people, or maybe hardly, right? Rarely. Have. I think in this case, have is fine. Right. Have, create, generate. Their, I'd say hardly have, right? Individual. I would actually say generate individual. Mm, unique. Let's see. Maybe because I'm putting so many options here. All right, so I'll remove generate here because I think have or create actually even create sounds a bit strange. You create your own perspective, or maybe just have. Okay, so people hardly or rarely have right individual ideas, right? Beliefs, right? Or perspectives. If you say unique, right, I think it's fine, right? People rarely have unique, I would accept it, okay, but it is not as precise lah. Okay? Ken, right? Angel, is it better now? Right? Am I still lagging? Yeah, maybe unique. Yeah, I would say personal. Right? Personal, I think might be better. Right? Unique, I think not wrong, but just a little imprecise. Ken? Right, Angel, you can't hear me, is it? Can the rest of you hear me? Can you give me a thumbs up if you can indeed hear me? Okay, so Angel, do you want to maybe check your... Hold on, I realized that Angel can't hear me. Okay, but for the rest of you, everyone more or less clear? Can you just give me one more thumbs up? Okay, all right. Now, in the interest of time, right, I initially wanted you guys to paraphrase, right, some of the points on your own. Okay, but since it is already 7:29, okay, what I think I will do is I will share with you suggested paraphrasing for the other 5 points, okay? Feel free to screenshot, right, take a picture, okay, where relevant lah, okay? Kenzifa, can you just give me one more thumbs up and then I will just show you the final screen. Okay. And then afterwards, I will release you from this prison. Okay. Okay. Right now, take a look over here, right? So these are for the other points. I did not color code or anything, so it's really just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so do take a picture of this, or maybe jot this down somewhere. Okay, screenshot, yeah, feel free to do so. Okay, for those of you who want to try it on your own, maybe just screenshot, save it somewhere. Don't look at the screen, right? So you try it on your own, and then afterwards you can do a bit of self-review. Okay, can so far? Right, once you're done taking a picture of this, can you just give me a quick thumbs up? If you have any questions about the paraphrasing here, right, let me know in the Zoom chat as well. While I still have you guys. No questions. Okay, good, 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 good. Right, Angel, are you there? Okay, right, Angel, I assume that you can hear me now. Okay, but that's about all that I have for you because it's only 1.5 hours left. Okay, usually inside regular classes, we will take a look at these in greater detail. Or students will do them on their own, so you get a bit of that individual practice. Okay. If you do have any questions, or feel free to ask away. I will be here maybe for the next 5 minutes. Okay. If you have no other questions, I officially release you guys, right, from this prison. You can leave the Zoom meeting. Okay? Bye-bye. Okay, right. I'm getting some of your questions. Angel, I think for the other points, right, the other 3 points, you will need to rewatch the recording. Okay, so I think this will be uploaded to YouTube, so then you can rewatch it and then you can just go to the points, right? I'm not sure if the answer key will be released, right? I don't think so, actually. Okay, but this one you have all 5 lah. Okay. How you link alien to isolated? Okay, the alienated word. Okay, so remember alienated, the root word, right, in alienated, okay, would be the word alien, right? So an alien would be a creature that stands out or a creature that is, I think as some of your classmates mentioned, right, they are creatures that are, they don't belong, they can't fit in, okay, right? And so you notice that if you alienate a person, right? If you were to alienate a person, it would mean that you are treating them, right, like an outcast, right? You're treating them like they don't belong. You're treating them like they're not part of the group, that they are quite detached. Right. So if let's say, right, you are, right, a victim of alienation or you are being alienated, then it would mean that you are therefore being treated differently from the others. Right? You are separated from the group. Right? In other words, you are isolated, you're on your own. Yeah. And if you recall inside the paragraph itself, they mentioned lonely as well. To feel lonely is to feel, alone and sad, right? So alone plus this idea of being treated like an alien. You notice that's how we derived at the word isolated, right? Because it means that you're basically treated, right? Like you're detached from the rest of the group. But does that answer your question, dear? Okay. No worries, right? Angel, yes, right? So the other 3 points were the ones that we went through earlier. So you can rewatch the video and then you can just go to that relevant section. Okay? Topic as in what we are doing in like the component. Is it? Okay, so this week we are doing narrative comprehension. Okay, right, bye, dear. Right, so this week we are doing narrative comprehension, right? But we are also having like oral practice, right? Let me see. Let me just double check. Right, this week is narrative compre, right? I do think next week we just did paper 1, right? So last week we did situational writing. This week paper 2. This week we're doing narrative compre and visual text compre, right? And then I think next week it should be another paper 2 component as well. Okay. But we also have, like I mentioned earlier, we do paper 1 as well. So last week we did situational writing. In a couple of weeks' time, right, we will do paper 1 continuous writing as well. Okay, so it will be like a rotation, right, of all the different components. We have oral, but it will be up until probably July, right? Because that's when your oral paper will be held. Okay? Does that answer your question, dear? Okay, the rest of you, if you do have questions, right, feel free to let me know as well. Okay, great. Right. Any other questions? Feel free to reach out to the overmugged number, right? Then they can address any other queries you may have. Right, no problems there. Bye-bye. All right. The rest of you, do you have any other questions? You still have me for 1 more minute? Okay. Right, so you're just waiting for me to end the meeting. Can. Okay, so I will end the meeting in about 30-ish more seconds at about 7:35. Okay? Right, thank you. Right, bye-bye. Mm, Angel, let me send you my email. All right, so you via email, I think would be better. Okay? Donna, let me send it to you. Do you have it? Can so Angel, once you have gotten my email, okay, all right, no problem. Okay, so now it is already 7:35. Okay, so I'm going to be ending the meeting now. Okay, so bye guys. Right, bye Angel, Amanda, George. All right, I hope to see you guys in class. Okay, let me see. All right, bye bye.